It's a little Tea Party nation. That's
And
what
I
it
should
is.
say, one of those think pieces Michael wrote. I've read it to other places too, but credit where credit's due. Michael wrote that we're diverging piece, and he did it with a sort of a Yiddish lilt. So good for him.
There's some differences, and they're getting more pronounced.
It seems to me. It seems to me. I'm going to be spending, I can tell you that the next 48 hours are going to be spent on an email chain that I'm going to wish I never got involved in. But I can assure you that I just, it's like a moth to light with me, right? Like I couldn't help it.
That's you. But I think the other thing,
I have an emotional problem. That's an emotional problem,
oh, well, that's,
right?
that's
I
sort
mean,
of
that's an emotional problem.
Benjamin Netanyahu's a racist, Avdor Lieberman's a fascist, and Sam Seder has emotional problems.
I'm a
This
provocateur.
yeah, you are a provocateur.
But I mean, it's not for the sake of provocation. It's actually genuinely held belief, but it's the provocation that makes me write the email.
That makes it fun.
Yeah.
But don't you think the other big piece of this is how does very specifically this progressive accept Palestine thing happen anymore? Because I mean, it's one thing to say, it becomes more of a partisan issue, but I think in the future, like, and just being realist about it, Bill de Blasio needed to run the campaign he ran the last time and say what he said about Israel in order to get elected mayor of New York. There's just no question about it. But in the future, especially with any remnant of any idea about what this is coming off, how can you build a coalition the way Bill de Blasio did, or the way Elizabeth Warren is and the right-wing position she holds on Israel, or even Bernie Sanders for that matter? How can you not at least be forced to say, well, I stand with the left in Israel, or I stand with the liberals in Israel?
Well, that's
and
the
start
point.
to make an actual
That's
distinction.
the point. I mean,
It's
I think, listen,
unbelievable.
when Tim Kaine said that he was not going to go to Bibi Netanyahu's speech. Now, granted, I don't know what Tim Kaine's base of support is, but here's a guy who hopes to be vice president, and that decision is not made lightly. And so he sits down, he makes a calculation, and just see, like, what price will I pay here? And it seems to me that I mean, I imagine the guy thinks this out. I mean, he's a bright guy, and he definitely has ambitions. And so those are the type of calculations that you make. And that, to me, is an indication of potential softness in support of, or I should say, potential softness in the support of a Netanyahu-led Israel. And so, yes, I think the next step, the next logical step is, but, because it's problematic because you don't want to get involved in other people's elections, but is to start to see this cleave. And it's going to be interesting, it's going to be interesting because this is going to be a question that Hillary Clinton's going to get. And my guess is that she tends to be to the right of Obama on this. And
I think she's to the right, but don't you think she's to the right in the same way that she's just sort of assumed, like, of course I have to vote for the invasion of Iraq. Of course, and if you're her, maybe you're anticipating, maybe I don't want to always sort of be out of sync. I don't think she's not gonna move to the left on this issue, but it's possible. I wonder if she might have to make a few more gestures in the context of the next party of, like, Palestinians are human beings. Benjamin Netanyahu's a little out of control. I support what's happening with Iran. I just wonder if that dynamic is shifting. But I think it's particularly more for progressives than for someone like Hillary Clinton.
I mean, I think, look, the costs for being sort of knee-jerk supportive of Israel as a politician are just not that great right now, except in the context of what that means for, like, let's say, the Iranian negotiations. And that's why it's not a coincidence. This all, to the extent that there's any fissures, it happening around the Iranian negotiations. in a vacuum where there are no other issues, there's not that much of an electoral cost. But it could come in terms of pressure. I mean, I guess we'll have to wait and see.